quilting friends, it's Carolina Moore, your favorite sewing and quilting YouTuber, and I'm here today to teach you about a quilt-as-you-go method. I'm going to show you start to finish how to make a table runner, quilt-as-you-go, and then you can totally adapt this to make smaller things like placemats, or you can use this for larger things like quilts. I've absolutely made quilt-as-you-go quilts with the same method. We're just going to go small so we can get it all in today's video. So I'm using my Baby Lock Jubilant today. You see this machine in most of my quilting videos. Every now and then I bring out my Baby Lock Aria, but I do a lot of what I do on the Baby Lock Jubilant because I want you to see that while fancy machines with all the bells and whistles are really awesome and they have maybe some more, like I said, bells and whistles, right? Things that they can do, and they can sometimes make sewing a little easier with things like knee lifts or buttons that do certain things, but so much of quilting is really accessible with a basic machine. The Jubilant is a fairly basic machine. I have to lift up the presser foot by hand. There isn't like a button for lifting up the presser foot. It has a smaller throat, and we're going to be making a table runner today, and we're going to be fitting that all in this smaller throat. So you can absolutely do a lot of quilting things with machines like our Baby Lock Jubilant, and that's what I'm going to show you today with our Quilt-as-you-go table runner. Before we get started, make sure you're subscribed and you've given this video a like. We want to make sure that other people get a chance to see it as well, and when you interact with it, you let YouTube know, hey, it's a good video, show it to some other people. So go ahead and get that out of the way, and we're going to set up and get started. Okay friends, let's talk about the materials that we're using today. This is a 1/2 yard of backing fabric. This is just regular quilting cotton. This, actually, all the fabrics that I'm using today are from the line Gloria by Maureen Cracknell. And so this is going to be my backing fabric. I like it. It has a little bit of a bigger print, but really you can use just about any fabric that you love for your backing fabric. So 100% cotton, Art Gallery Fabrics. This one happens to be Gloria from Maureen Cracknell. Then I've taken 4 other prints, and you can see all 4 right here. That all coordinate with my backing fabric, so it'll all look nice together. And I've cut 3 strips of each print. 2 of the strips are 2.5 inches, and 1 of the strips is 3.5 inches. You don't need to remember that. You can cut your strips whatever size you want. Just know if you cut smaller strips, it's going to take longer to finish your table runner because you'll need a lot more strips and it's going to take more time. And if you cut wider strips, it'll go together quicker, but it won't look as intricate. So depending on what you want, and also if you've got bigger prints on your fabrics, you might want those to show more. And I have mine at 2.5 and 3.5 inches. You can do them at whatever size you want. 4.5, you can do bigger, smaller, totally fine. But remember that 1/4 inch on each side, just like with regular piecing, is going to go into our seam allowance. So you want to make sure that you have that 1/4 inch on each side for seam allowance. So if you cut a 1/2 inch strip, it's too small, the whole thing's going to be seam allowance. If you cut a 1 inch strip, it's going to only end up being 1/2 inch in your finished project because 1/2 inch is going to seam allowance. So my 2.5 inch strips are going to end up at 2 inches. My 3.5 inch strips are going to end up at 3 inches. Make sense? Let me know if it doesn't down in the comments and I'll get back to you. Okay, so we have our backing fabric. We have our strips. Now we have some batting. This is a roll of batting that already comes in a good size. You can take any batting and just cut it to the width that you want. We're doing a table runner here. This is an 18 inch roll of batting, so that's going to be my table runner. My table runner is going to be 18 inches. If you want your table runner to be 15 inches, cut yours at 15 inches. If you want your table runner to be 12 inches, cut yours to 12. Whatever size you want your table runner, that's the width of batting we're going to use, and then whatever length you want your table runner. I'm going to go ahead and use the whole length of my 1/2 yard of fabric. It's going to be about 40 inches, and I've already cut the selvage off this backing fabric because I'm working on a selvage quilt, and so I wanted to save those selvages. Last supply, and this isn't necessary, but I think it just makes life a little bit easier, and this is just basting spray. There's all different kinds, and there's a couple that I think are better than others. This purple can, this is the Spray and Bond. I think it's fabulous. 505 will be carried at a lot of different quilt shops. 505 is also good. And there's a Prim Dritz brand that's in like a green and yellow can. I like that one too. So those 3 brands are all brands that I use. Sulky also has one. I find it a little more difficult to find, but if you can find Sulky's, theirs is great as well. And also pretty good for indoors when you're doing this indoors. So yeah, the Sulky brand, I've used that one as well, and it's great. So I'm moving some things out of the way so that we can get this basted down. I want to spray baste this to my backing fabric so that I don't have a lot of shift. We're going to do this with a regular foot, not a walking foot. If you have a walking foot for your machine, that's awesome. Grab it, use it. It'll make life just a little bit easier. But if you don't have a walking foot, as I'm going to show you today, you'll still be okay. All right. So just want to kind of roll this out and smooth it out. And then I'm going to baste. Different people are going to give you different instructions on like what's the best way to baste. Obviously you want to spray, you want to be in a well ventilated area. I spray on my batting. Some people prefer to spray on their fabric. You can try both and see what works best for you. We're just going to give that a spray. Place it down. There we go. All right, I'm going to cut this the length of my backing piece. I'm going to bring this batting up. Now it stops bringing the batting up and starts bringing the fabric up at this point, so I know that this part has already been basted. And I'm going to do one more section, and then after this I'll do one more. So this will just be done in 3 sections. It doesn't have to be perfect. We definitely are not trying to go for like a concrete bond. We just want them to not shift underneath the presser foot of the machine. Okay. Now this last one, if I get any overspray, I want the overspray on the batting, not on the fabric. There we go. And if you get any wrinkles or puckers, just go ahead and just pull it apart. It has almost like a Velcro grippy or a hook and loop tape grippy bond together. So you can just kind of peel it apart and put it back together. It's a little bit like a removable sticker. You just don't want to remove it too many times. So right now I have a 1/4 inch foot with guide on my machine. And that is not going to work because that guide is going to snag on my batting. And that's going to make for a rough ride. So I have a couple options. You could go with like your standard, this is an end foot, depending on the branded machine, it's going to have a different name, but like this is just your standard foot. But your seam allowance is going to be bigger than a 1/4 inch. It's not the end of the world. You will just lose more of your fabric and it's going to take more fabric to finish up the project. I have a 1/4 inch foot here that doesn't have a guide, so I'm just going to go with that. But if all you have is a standard foot, no big deal. It's just nice to have a foot where you know that the edge, you can just follow that edge. So even if you use this foot, you would still follow that edge because then you know that your lines are straight. Okay, so last step is to talk about our stitches. So the last thing that we would talk about is the stitch length. And I'm just going to leave the stitch length where it already is on the machine. You don't have to worry about making the stitch length longer or shorter for this technique. You can just use your standard stitch length and there'll be no stitch width. We're not doing a zigzag, we're just doing a straight stitch. Okay, so I've rolled up this right side, so it's a little bit out of my way, and I'm going to start with my first strip over here on the left. If you want, before you get started here, you can go ahead and make some parallel lines with a fabric marking pen, like a blue washable ink pen, to give yourself some guidelines in case your strips go wonky. I don't mind so much if my strips end up going wonky. It's just a fun table runner for in my home. And if it gets a little wonky, not a big deal. However, if it matters to you, this is the time where you want to go ahead and draw some lines just right on your batting, and that'll give you an idea of keeping everything straight. So I have my two strips on top of one another, and I'm not a big pinner, but I have a lot of layers going on here. I have these two strips plus the batting plus the backing. So I just want to add a couple pins, especially since I haven't drawn those lines, to give me an idea if I'm going crooked. Hi, Kat. Thanks for joining in. There we go. Not today, friend. Thank you, though. And now I'm going to bring this over to my sewing machine. I have this all rolled up. It's just going to tuck right in there. I'm going to put my presser foot down. And I'm just going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. When I get to a pin, I'm just going to lift that or move that pin. There we go. And keep going. Okay, there we go. We have our strips. They've been sewn all the way down. You can see on the back there is a line of stitching right across the back. And now we can trim these off. And we can open up this strip. Now there are a bunch of options for how to press this. If you've used 100% cotton batting like I have here, you can actually use an iron to press it. You can use a seam roller to press this, or I'm just finger pressing it here, just like you would crease paper if you were like doing origami paper folding. So I have pressed that, and now I can grab another strip. Let's see. I'm going to do this one. And we're going to do the same thing. Just lay the strip right on top, grab your pins, and we're pinning right sides together, lining up the edges. There we are. And same thing, just take it underneath the sewing machine and sew with that 1/4 inch seam allowance. Same thing, just trim off the extra. Open it up and press that nice and flat. I haven't used my 4th color yet, but I don't want it to be too 1, 2, 3, 4. How you do yours is completely up to you, but I'm going to go ahead and use my 1st color again just to keep it interesting. And if it makes your life easier, you can cut this strip off now. I mean, if it makes your life easier, you could cut all your strips to 18 inches already, because we know that's how wide the table runner is. Or if you've chosen a different width, whatever width you chose for your table runner. So we're going to keep on going, pinning, or adding strips, pinning, sewing, flipping over, finger pressing, or pressing however else we want. And we're going to keep going down all the way the 40-inch length of our table runner. Okay, there we go. That's the last strip. Yes, there's like a 1/2 inch left. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to end up trimming that up, so it's totally fine. But here we go. I've finished all the strips on my table runner, and now I have some decisions, some choices. I can leave it like this because it's completely quilted. You can see the quilting lines on the back. Quilting is where the top layer is secured to the back layer through the middle layer, and that's what's happened here. You can't see the stitching on the top layer because it's just tucked underneath inside, but this is fully quilted. So at this point, we could just bind it and be done. That'd be totally perfect, and that's actually what I'm going to do with this one. However, you can, if you want, add some extra quilting lines. You can add some extra quilting lines parallel. You can add some extra quilting lines perpendicular. You can add some hand quilting, like some great hand quilting accents would be fabulous in here and would look great. I can't think of a fabric that wouldn't look great with hand quilting. I think this would look fabulous with hand quilting. I may go ahead and add that back later after I bind it, because that's another option. After you bound it, after you bind your quilt, you can still add some hand stitching if you want, or some little hand stitching accents. If you were doing this for a seasonal thing, like for Easter or Christmas or a patriotic event, whatever your event is that you're putting together a table runner for, you can add an applique on top of here and applique that down. This is a fully quilted base that you can now add other things to, or you can leave as is. You have so many choices once you have made this base, and really you can whip this up in an hour and 90 minutes depending on how fast of a quilter you are, and if you already have your strips cut, and also what size you're using your strips. Smaller strips gonna take a little bit longer, but you can get a lot of variety and interest in with small strips. So there we go. This is all done. The last thing is to square it up and bind it. I have another video on binding quilts. I'm going to go ahead and link that here so you can go check out my binding video. I show you how to hand bind and machine bind. Both totally fine for this project. If you want to hand bind it, if you want to machine bind it, both are great options. But you do want to square it up first. I'm going to show you real quick how we're going to square this up so that it's ready for binding. Okay, so I have my mat. This is not a huge mat, but that's okay. And I'm going to line up my edges. My half yard was pretty squared up. You'll see I have lots of threads here at the beginning of my fabric, or at the beginning of my stitching. That's okay. I'm not worried about that. Now I'm going to line up this fold with a line on my mat. And I want to bring this in just a little bit. Double check that my batting fits all inside this 18 inches. Now you can trim, like I could make this a 16-inch wide table runner at this point. There we go. And I'm going to take my ruler and move this mat a little bit closer to me. Line this up with the lines on the mat. To help with that, let me grab a spot on dot. Here we go. This spot on dot is going to help me see those lines on the mat even better. There we are. And now I'm going to carefully cut through all my layers here. There we go. I'm not going to unfold it yet. I'm actually going to turn this to make it a little easier for me. Oh, that's going to be so much easier. Okay. And this side I'm going to cut a 1/4 inch shy, just to make sure that everything's inside, that I have enough batting to extend over that edge. There we go. And this last little bit there. Perfect. And now, when I open this up, this will be nice and straight. Now I see here that I have batting showing, so I have a couple choices. I could trim this up a 1/4 inch less, and that would definitely cover that. Or if I know my binding is going to cover this, which it will, this is a lot less than a 1/4 inch, so my binding will totally cover that. I can leave that be and just have it covered with a binding. But both options are just fine, either trimming it a little shorter or going ahead and adding some binding, as long as I know it's going to cover that whole thing. Now all I need to do is square up these side ends, and that's easy enough because I can line this up with the mat, and I can line that up with the mat. And then I can just easily square off this end. There we are. And I can flip it over and do the same on the other side. This is lined up with a line on the mat. That should also be lined up with a line on the mat. If I see my batting starts actually a little bit in from there. So I want to make sure that there's batting all the way through. And there we go. All I have left on this table runner is to go ahead and add some binding. Or if I wanted, yes, I could add some hand stitching or applique or other decorative pieces. But it's that simple to put together a Quilt-as-you-go table runner. And now that you understand the process of how to do Quilt-as-you-go, you can do this on quilts, which will take a little bit longer because they're a little bit bigger, but you can absolutely do this with quilts on your domestic sewing machine and quilt and piece a strip quilted quilt together at the same time. Alright friends, if you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, leave those down below. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. There's lots more fun coming your way. Plus, if you're new here, look around. I have a lot of quilty videos with a lot of different tips and techniques that might help you out with your quilting. Thanks so much for watching, my friends. I will see you right here real soon. Bye for now.